everyone, my name is Mary Lynn and I'm the program developer here at the Eco Justice Center, and I wanted to talk to you today about our amazing alpacas. And so we've harnessed them for you so that I can introduce them to you so that you can tell them apart when you visit the Eco Justice Center when we're open again. So our first guy right here, this is Grant, and Grant is the tallest of all the alpacas. And so that's one of the ways I can tell him apart. Another way is that he kind of has blue eyes, and he's probably one of the lighter colors of brown. So he has lighter brown fur. So that's how I can tell Grant. Now we're going to move over to Friar Tuck. Oopsie, can you guys separate a second? There we go. Okay, so this is Friar Tuck. And the way that he's actually our alpha, he's the oldest, he's 21 years old. And alpacas only live to be about 20, around 20, so he's a pretty old guy, but he leads our little herd here very well. And I can usually tell him because just by the look on his face, and also that his dark brown eyes are usually covered a little bit more with this mop. His hair always kind of falls in his eyes a little bit, and that's how I can tell him. So that's Friar Tuck, he's 21. Grant's 16. And then we've got our next one over here is Aldo. And Aldo is pretty easy to tell apart. Even though he's brown, he has really curly hair on the top of his head. And he's our smallest alpaca. He also has a white belly. And so he's got curly hair on his legs and also a white belly. And so he's an easy one to tell apart as well. And then we've got right over here, our next brown alpaca is Gaylord. And Gaylord is probably the friendliest of all of our alpacas. And he's got the really dark black muzzle. His nose is really dark black. That's how we can tell Gaylord apart. And he's also got really furry ears. And that's another way we can tell Gaylord apart. And then finally, our last guy over here is the easiest one to tell apart because this is Theo, and Theo has all white fur, and he is absolutely the tallest of all of our alpacas. So he's the easiest one to tell apart, and he's around 15 or 16 years old too, except for Theo. His personality is probably the most skittish out of all of our alpacas. So out of all the alpacas, he probably doesn't want to be around people the most. And everybody always loves Theo, but he doesn't always love other people. So that's how you could tell Theo apart. So you might have noticed that our alpacas are humming. Every once in a while, Grant does that a lot. And that's their way of communicating. And they're just communicating that they don't know exactly what's going on right now. And so sometimes they hum a little bit more if they're nervous or if they're noticing something. They're letting something, the other alpacas in the herd know that they've noticed something. And so that's why you can hear some humming right now, because they're not used to me just standing here and talking about them being videoed. So what else makes alpacas amazing? Well, alpacas have hair and feed their babies milk, which makes them a mammal just like people. They are also a camelid, which means they're related to camels. They're originally from South America, but they were domesticated thousands of years ago from an animal called a vicuna. And there are no wild alpacas, but there are two different breeds of alpacas, Wakaya, which is what our alpacas are, and Suri. Here at EcoJ, alpacas give us both fiber and fertilizer. Manure from the alpacas is collected and mixed with other compost materials where it decomposes and gives us great fertilizer for the gardens and pastures. Let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, poop. Poop or manure or scat, they're all names for the same thing. Our alpacas, conveniently, they poop all in one space. You can see the poop pile in the middle of the pasture right there. And so it's pretty easy to muck out of the barn or out of the pasture and add it to our compost pile where it can decompose with other things, and then we can add that fertilizer onto our gardens and pastures. So you can see Friar Tuck just laid down, and alpacas have two different ways of laying down. One way is to lay down with their legs folded underneath them. so they look really cute and adorable like they're doing right now. Another way is to lay fully down all on their side. So sometimes when you see them in the pasture, it looks like something is wrong, but it's just them relaxing. Many people wonder what the difference is between alpacas and llamas. Well, both are from South America. Both are domesticated animals, which means that they've lived around people for thousands of years. One of the easiest ways to tell alpacas and llamas apart is to look at their ears. Alpacas have shorter, spear-shaped ears. They kind of look like fox. Llamas have very long, banana-shaped ears. There's also a big difference in their size. Llamas are taller and heavier than alpacas. Alpacas only weigh between 125 and 200 pounds, but llamas weigh between 300 and 450 pounds. And I'm 5'6", and I'm taller than all of our alpacas. But if I had a llama here, the llama would be much taller than me because at their ears it's usually 6 feet tall. Another difference is the shape of their body. Llamas have a flatter and a longer back than alpacas, which makes llamas a good pack animal, whereas alpacas were always raised for their fiber or their wool. Another difference is their face. The nose of an alpaca is short and compact, and they have a lot of hair on their face, which makes them look puffy and adorable all of the time. Llamas have a longer nose, and the hair on their face is generally short. Alpacas have 3 parts to their stomach. After they chew and swallow their food, it goes into the first part. In our stomachs, we have digestive juices that help break down our food. But alpacas don't have those digestive juices in that first part of their stomach, so they kind of cough the food back up and chew it again. And goats and cows do this too. So sometimes our alpacas will just be standing there, not eating anything, and chewing. And it kind of looks like they have something in their cheek, and that's their cud. They're chewing their food again to help digest it better. Alpacas have sweat glands on their bellies, so in summertime when it's hot out, they enjoy belly baths. We put sprinklers out for the alpacas, and they sometimes take turns taking a belly bath. As I mentioned earlier, we do shear our alpacas once a year in late May or early June because we harvest their fiber or their wool. And here they are waiting to be sheared. This is Aldo being sheared. You can see that he's got one side done and he's shearing off the other side. He's shearing the back of the alpaca, and the back part is called the blanket, and that's the most valuable wool on the alpaca. There's also wool on the neck and on the legs, and those are usually referred to as seconds, but the primary wool is the most valuable. So this is how they look after they've been sheared. They kind of look like deer, but this helps keep them cool during the summertime. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed learning more about our amazing alpacas here at EcoJ. And hopefully when we're open again, you'll be able to visit them for yourself or maybe take some of our programs and learn a little bit more about them. Have a great day.